let's unpack this story. Imagine a world where your identity is tied to an inner spirit, a primal wolf, and then, well, what happens when that spirit just never shows up?
Right, what's the weight of that kind of absence?
And then you layer on top of that a world where duty and fate can actually collide, where, these bonds that seem unbreakable might get tested or even replaced by something else entirely.
It's a fascinating setup.
So we're diving into a really interesting stack of source material today. It's excerpts from a romance story transcript, all about werewolf shifters.
Yeah, and it's a narrative world, right? It's got its own very specific kind of intricate rules about connection, belonging, duty, all those big themes.
Think of this as our deep dive into the facts, let's say, of this particular universe, just as it's laid out in the source. Our mission really is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge. How does this world actually work?
What makes these characters tick, given those rules?
Exactly. And we want to uncover the surprising twists that maybe reveal deeper truths about this society and the nature of its bonds.
And it's interesting because, even though it's fictional, exploring these specific rules and how the characters navigate them, it can give us unexpected insights.
Insights into what, though?
Well, into themes we see everywhere, right? Like identity pressures, family expectations, the whole dance between making choices and, well, what feels like destiny or circumstance.
Absolutely. It's definitely a unique lens to look at things like, well, what even defines a family in this context? Or what happens when your perceived flaws seem to dictate your whole place in the world?
So we're using this story as our guide, basically pulling out the core concepts as they unfold in the narrative.
Okay, so let's start by really stepping into this world. Let's understand the central conflict facing our main character right at the beginning. That's Elsa.
And her situation from the get-go is incredibly difficult. It's layered, societal expectations, personal sorrow. It's all there.
The source throws us right in. She's in this bright, almost sterile doctor's office, and she's getting just devastating news.
It's a medical diagnosis. Delivered. Well, the source says hesitantly, but it's conclusive based on the tests. She's infertile, she won't be able to conceive.
And the detail the source gives about her reaction, it makes it so clear this isn't just like a medical fact for her. It's the loss of a really deeply held dream.
Yeah, she immediately thinks about the nursery back home. Sunshine yellow, the source says. A room already prepped.
And the crib. The crib Hector, her husband, had put together, but apparently with some reluctance. That detail feels important later.
It does.
Yeah.
And she sees all those lost moments, right? The small hands, bedtime stories, first steps.
Yeah.
All the things she'd hoped for, just gone.
All that anticipation, all the hope she'd maybe held on to despite everything else, just vanishes in that moment.
And then this personal heartbreak gets compounded, massively compounded, actually, by another factor that's crucial for understanding Elsa's place in this world.
Which is
her status as wolfless.
Right. Explain that a bit. What does that mean in this shifter society?
So the source explains that for their kind, most shifters feel their inner wolf, their primal spirit, start to emerge around puberty.
And this wolf gives them things.
Oh yeah, strength, heightened senses, the ability to transform, and importantly, it's described as sharing their very soul. It's integral to their identity.
But Elsa's wolf
never came. She remained, in essence, fully human, can't shift, can't access those inherent powers.
And how is that viewed?
Badly. In this society, being wolfless isn't just being different. It's seen as, well, incomplete, lacking. The source even uses the phrase, a disgrace amongst her kind. She was marked by this absence right from birth.
Wow. So she's already carrying that stigma.
Exactly. So when this infertility diagnosis lands, it doesn't happen in isolation. It feels, as the source puts it, like a final confirmation of her perceived brokenness.
Just another way she doesn't measure up.
Precisely. It piles onto that existing sense of inadequacy, makes her feel like it's another thing my body can't do right. It's a double whammy, really.
The personal grief of not having kids, plus the societal reinforcement that she's less than.
Yeah. And we see how this status directly impacts her marriage. The source paints a really revealing picture of her relationship with Hector.
He's a beta wolf, right? From a respected bloodline.
That's right. So he has status expectations within the pack hierarchy. And he did marry Elsa, but the source makes a point of saying he married her despite her wolfless status.
Oof, that word despite says a lot.
It really does. And it adds that it was something he never let her forget. So right away, this isn't a marriage based on equality or, deep connection.
The source calls it an alliance.
Yeah, which implies it was more about maybe Hector's position or a deal between families, something strategic, not a true fated mate bond like you might expect in these stories.
And his hopes for children weren't really about building a family with her.
Seems not. It was about the bloodline. He apparently hoped any kids they had would somehow inherit only his strong genes. Like, maybe they could overcome her deficiency.
So, when she tells him about the infertility, how does he react?
Outwardly, he says all the right things. We'll be okay, it's not the end of the world. Performative. But his eyes are described as cold, unreadable, suggesting his real concern is probably elsewhere. Likely focused on what this means for his lineage, his status.
Which brings us neatly to his views on adoption, because Elsa does bring that up, right?
She does, yeah, as a possibility. And Hector's reaction is, well, it's immediate and harsh.
The source quotes him directly, doesn't it?
It does. You want to raise some strangers, kid? We don't even know what we'd be bringing into our lives. Pack bonds or blood bonds, Elsa, you know that.
Wow, that line, pack bonds or blood bonds. That's incredibly telling about how he defines family.
Absolutely. It's not about love, not about choosing to build a family. It's solely about blood, hierarchy. A child not from his bloodline is a stranger, a risk.
Not a potential family member.
No. And it really underscores how conditional his whole relationship with Elsa seems to be. She's acceptable despite being wolfless, but anything that deviates further, like raising a non-blood child, that's a hard no.
And this just leaves Elsa with this ache, the source calls it.
Yeah, a persistent, growing ache. It stays with her after he dismisses adoption. It flares up every time she sees other pack mothers with their kids, preparing them for their first shift, teaching them about their wolves.
Just a constant reminder of the life she wants, the family she longs for.
And the ways her body and her status seem to keep denying her that.
What's fascinating here is how this mirrors real-world pressures, right, around family legacy. But here it's amplified by these literal concepts of bloodlines and wolf spirits.
Definitely. For Elsa, it's not just about infertility. It's about feeling fundamentally out of sync with her entire society's core identity and expectations. And that ache for family just highlights that gap constantly.
It's a really powerful depiction of how these societal value systems can just burrow deep into your sense of self-worth. It makes that external validation feel almost like survival, especially if you're already seen as incomplete.
Exactly, like her very existence is conditional.
So just as Elsa's wrestling with all this grief, this compounded inadequacy, the story takes a really sudden, sharp turn.
Yeah, an urgent phone call interrupts everything.
The narrative shifts completely from that quiet internal struggle to this immediate external crisis. Elsa gets a call. The voice on the other end is described as strained, urgent.
And the news is bad. Really bad. Lola Caldwell, who's the Luna of the powerful Ironwood pack, she's in critical condition.
What happened?
Her patrol is attacked by rogue wolves near the territory border. And it's a really striking detail. The unexpected part is that Lola is asking for Elsa, specifically saying only you.
Which is weird because...
Is the source notes they haven't actually spoken in almost a decade.
Okay, so there's history there, but it's distant history.
Right. Despite the time and silence, Elsa's told she has to come to the Ironwood estate immediately. Lola won't last long. So Elsa goes, despite maybe having reservations or just the strangeness of it all.
And the arrival scene at the Ironwood estate, it really sets the stage, doesn't it? Shows the power of this pack.
Oh yeah. Massive stone and timber mansion, described as a symbol of ancient strength. Guards with glowing amber eyes at the entrance.
Who immediately sense she's an outsider.
Right. Maybe even sense her wolflessness. But Elsa, even without a wolf, she knows the protocols, right?
She handles it?
She does. Doesn't hesitate. States her purpose directly. Elsa Richards, your Luna is asking for me.
And inside?
Eerily quiet. Packed with pack members, heads bowed, a real atmosphere of reverence, mourning, deep respect for their Luna. She's led quickly into the master bedroom.
Which sounds pretty grim.
Yeah, dim light, air thick with the smell of herbs and blood.
Yeah.
Sharp, coppery.
And she finds Lola, pale, bandaged, clearly near the end. But there's something else.
The surprise discovery. The thing that completely stops Elsa. There's a cradle beside the bed.
She had no idea Lola even had a baby.
Absolutely no idea. Which leads to this incredibly poignant moment where she actually meets Paige.
Lola introduces her.
Barely able to speak, yeah. Introduces this tiny bundle in a pink blanket as her daughter. Paige is maybe 4 months old, the source says, and she looks up at Elsa with these wide, familiar eyes. Specifically notes they are Lola's eyes.
And that hits Elsa hard.
Something profound happens. The source says something in Elsa cracks open. seeing this tiny life, recognizing her old friend's eyes.
She reaches out instinctively.
Yeah, murmurs shh to the baby. And Paige quiets almost instantly. Her little hand reaches out, curls around Elsa's finger. Total trust.
And Lola sees this connection.
She does. Sees Paige find comfort with Elsa immediately. And she whispers, she knows. She senses your family. Which is a really interesting line.
Then comes the actual request, Lola's dying wish.
Delivered with urgency, desperation. Lola explains that Keith, the father, her mate is away, can't be reached. Another detail that feels significant later.
And the request is,
take her. Raise her as your own. Elsa is, understandably, shocked. Hesitant. I don't know if I can.
But Lola insists.
Pleads with her. Says, you're the only one I trust. And then she justifies it with this heartbreaking belief about Keith, Paige's father.
What does she say about him?
She says, he won't want her. Elsa finds that hard to believe, right? What father wouldn't want his own child?
And Lola's reason. The big reveal.
She whispers, she's like you, Elsa. Lola is certain Paige is wolfless. She sensed it since birth. A mother knows, she says.
Okay, so that's the connection Lola is making. Paige is wolfless, like Elsa.
And Lola believes that because Keith's bloodline is so ancient and powerful, his whole legacy depends on strong wolves. He'll reject Paige when he finds out.
Which immediately brings Hector's words back into Elsa's mind.
Exactly. The cruel dismissal of raising someone else's throwaway child. Elsa starts to worry about Hector's reaction, knowing his views, but Lola is fading fast.
So Lola makes one last plea.
Begs Elsa not to let her baby grow up unloved, or as some shameful secret. And as Paige just coos softly, unaware, something fierce just blooms in Elsa's chest.
The source describes it as maternal, protective, a feeling she'd imagined but never actually felt before.
Exactly. And in that moment, dying friend, helpless baby Elsa makes her choice. She whispers, Hector will just have to understand. Surprising even herself with the resolve.
Lola must have been relieved.
Relief washes over her face as Elsa promises, I promise, to love and raise Paige as her own.
But this raises a really important question, doesn't it, that the story circles back to?
Definitely. Why is Lola so certain her mate, the Alpha, wouldn't want his own child, especially one from his bloodline? Her certainty feels almost absolute, like there's more to it.
Yeah, like there's maybe a deeper, unspoken reason for their distance or the state of their relationship. It's hinted at, but not explained yet. Makes you question that surface reason she gives Elsa.
For sure. But right then, Elsa's focus is just on the baby, on the promise. The pack healer moves in, Lola's breathing stops, and outside, that mournful pack howl signals the Luna's death.
It's such a turning point. Elsa, feeling incomplete, childless, defective, suddenly finds her maternal instinct ignited.
By a baby whose own mother believed her father would also see her as a reject. It's this powerful twist of fate. And it sets up this huge confrontation that's going to challenge everything Elsa thought about her life, her marriage, her place.
So Elsa goes home, carrying this immense promise in this tiny, fragile new life.
And the yellow nursery, which was the symbol of her dashed hopes, now actually holds life. Paige.
The source describes Elsa just spending hours in there, right, learning Paige's rhythms.
Yeah, how she sleeps best against Elsa's heartbeat, the little sounds she makes. It's this time filled with, well, a mix of grief for Lola, but also this overwhelming, unexpected joy of having Paige there.
She looks into Paige's eyes, sees Lola there, sees no sign of a wolf yet, but
it doesn't matter to her anymore. That ache is still there, maybe, but it's transformed into this need to protect this child. She whispers to Paige, it doesn't matter what you are, you're perfect.
And then the inevitable confrontation, Hector comes home.
Right on schedule, the source says, unaware that everything has changed. His arrival is routine tires on gravel, footsteps. But then his shifter senses kick in.
He smells something unfamiliar.
What's that scent up here? He calls out. He finds the car seat, the baby things Elsa brought in, knows immediately something's different.
He goes upstairs.
Hears a soft cry from the nursery. Sees Paige in the crib. And his reaction is just immediate shock. Confusion. What is this? He whispers.
Elsa tries to explain. Lola's baby. Lola was dying. Gave her to them.
Hector interrupts her. Demands to know what that has to do with anything.
And then Elsa delivers the crucial piece of information. The part she knows will be the hardest for him. The reason Lola thought she had to give Paige away.
Paige doesn't have a wolf.
And Hector's reaction.
Instant darkness. His face just darkens. Contempt floods his features. A look Elsa knows all too well. It stings her. So not only someone else's baby, he says, but wolfless.
His focus immediately goes to how this impacts him.
Entirely. Elsa tries to explain Lola's fears, hoping maybe Hector will see the need, understand the promise, maybe even grow to love Paige.
But he just cuts her off.
Angry, self-centered. You can't be serious, Elsa. Tell me you didn't just bring home a baby without even calling me.
Elsa pleads, no time, Lola dying. It was her wish.
But Hector snaps back. So you made a decision for both of us. His voice rises, Paige stirs. This isn't a stray cat, Elsa, it's a child.
Elsa stays calm, though. Says she knows Paige is a child who needs love, and she's that person.
But Hector just digs in, dismisses the idea they should love her, especially after I told you I never wanted to raise another man's child. He starts pacing, accusing her.
Twisting her motives.
Yeah, this is about your diagnosis, isn't it? You're so desperate you'll take anyone's cast off. Elsa fiercely defends Paige, calls her a gift, not a cast off.
But Hector keeps going, revealing his true, shallow concern.
His reputation, his standing. She's defective, Elsa, he says, using that word again. Do you know what this does to my standing in the pack? They already whisper about my wolfless wife.
Ouch. That must cut deep.
It does. But strangely, it also brings this clarity for Elsa. She snaps back. I see. So that's what this comes down to. Your reputation. Your standing.
He tries to pull her back in, right? Our standing, Elsa, our life together, suggests they find another home for Paige.
Yeah, maybe a human family. Somewhere she'll fit in. Just dispose of the problem.
And this is the moment, the breaking point.
Elsa asked that piercing question. Is that what you wish had happened to me? That had been given away to humans? Hector looks uncomfortable, denies it, but the damage is done.
The realization hits her. Cold embracing, the source says.
She sees it all clearly now. You've never seen me as your equal, have you? You married me, but you never claimed me as your mate. She admits she accepted his terms for years, accepted feeling less than.
But now, looking at Paige,
She knows she won't accept this, declares it. I won't send Paige away.
Hector stays cold, though. Tries to maintain control. Adjusts his tie.
And I won't raise another man's wolfless child, Elsa. Not even for you.
And Elsa just exhales. A strange calm settles over her. Recognizes the end.
Well, she says quietly, I can't break my promise to Lola.
Which leads directly to the ultimatum, delivered with chilling indifference. He asks if she'd really throw away their marriage for this, meaning Paige.
And then he lays it out.
I need you to make a choice right now, Elsa. It's either me or that child. His tone is just matter of fact, like discussing the weather.
Elsa's in shock. You're asking me to choose. She looks for any softness in him, any love for her, finds nothing. He confirms it, adds a condition. Save the marriage. Call Paige's father. Tell him to come get her tonight. Don't. Then pack your things and leave.
And he gives his core reason, stripping it all bare.
He won't be the beta who not only couldn't give his wolfless wife a child, but then raised another Alpha's reject. It's all about his pride, his image.
But as Paige squirms in her arms, curls her hand around Elsa's finger, it brings clarity.
Unexpected clarity.
Yeah.
This tiny life, this deep promise, it outweighs years of this conditional, loveless marriage.
So she chooses.
Quietly at first, then stronger, unwavering. I choose her.
Oh!
Hector's genuinely surprised, blinks, didn't expect defiance.
She repeats it. I won't abandon this baby, not for you, not for anyone. Hector tries to laugh it off, dismiss it, doubt she'd throw away their life for a baby she just met.
But Elsa is resolute. She is mine now, meets his gaze, and delivers those final, powerful words to him.
Defining the end.
And yes, I would, because a man who would ask me to make this choice isn't a man worth choosing. She walks past him, heads to the bedroom to pack. Decision made.
Hector follows, right? Uncertainty finally creeping in. Tries to argue.
Yeah, calls it a mistake. But Elsa pauses, looks him right in the eye, and lays out exactly why she's leaving. Not just for Paige, but for herself.
What does she say?
You never loved me enough to claim me as your mate, and now you're asking me to abandon a child in need to break my promise to her mother, all to protect your pride. No, Hector, the only mistake I made was not leaving you sooner.
Wow. So this moment, it's huge for her. It's her defining moment. Not about finding a mate, but choosing motherhood, integrity, self-respect over him.
Absolutely. Reclaiming her agency, defining her own worth in a world that constantly told her she lacked it. It shows true strength isn't about status or power. It's about inner conviction, choosing love and principle.
She leaves with Paige, 2 bags, doesn't look back, closes that chapter, whispers to the baby, just you and me now, little one, sets the tone for what's next.
And what's next is, well, a very different life. Quiet resilience, self-sufficiency in a small apartment.
Yeah, the source details that tiny place barely fits them both. A real contrast to the big houses she's known. Secondhand furniture, threadbare couch, wobbly table.
But it's theirs. They establish a routine. Bath time in the tiny bathroom. Paige's bouncy seat perched on the toilet lid. Simple, demanding, but focused entirely on Paige and their bond.
Free from all those pack judgments and expectations.
Exactly. Though Hector doesn't just vanish. The source says he called 3 times the day before this next scene. His messages are all over the place.
Demanding she come home 1 minute.
This has gone on long enough, Elsa. And then cold, legalistic divorce updates the next. You've made your choice now. Deal with the consequences, that kind of thing.
And in their last chat, he confirms his real reason for the quick divorce.
Strips away any last illusion. Says coldly, I need a real mate. Someone who can give me children of my own. My bloodline doesn't deserve to end because you're defective.
That word again, defective.
It's been this quiet ghost, right? Whispered, implied. But hearing him say it outright, using it to justify abandoning her, it rips away those final illusions.
But she feels grief and relief.
Yeah, strange mix. Grief for the marriage, sure. But relief at finally being free from the pretense, the judgment.
So she's expecting him that afternoon to bring the initial divorce papers, closing that chapter formally.
Right, she's getting Paige ready for a bath, and the doorbell rings.
And it's not just a polite ring.
No, insistent, aggressive, 3 short bursts, then longer, held down, drills through the quiet. Paige starts wailing, upset by the sound.
Elsa thinks it's Hector being impatient.
Hell, feels irritated. Coming, Hector, calm down, she calls out, annoyed.
But when she opens the door, she freezes.
It's not Hector, this man. He towers over her, radiates power, broad-shouldered, expensive shirt straining, dark hair, strong jaw, eyes narrowed with fury.
And his scent. Even her dulled senses pick it up.
Overwhelming alpha pheromones, rolling off him in waves, more potent than anything she's encountered before.
And his first words.
A demand, deep, rough voice looking past her. Where is she? Where's my daughter?
Elsa's heart stutters. His daughter, the one Lola said he wouldn't want.
And then she recognizes it. An undertone in his scent. It's there in Paige's softer baby smell.
The realization hits her.
Like a physical blow. This is Keith Caldwell, Lola's mate. Paige's father.
How does she react?
Automatically. Protective. Steps between him and the doorway. In her crib, she says, adding pointedly, upset by your incessant ringing.
He's surprised by her boldness.
A flicker of surprise crosses his face, And then something truly unusual happens, something that kind of breaks the rules of this world as we've understood them.
What's that?
The source describes something strange passes between them. A pulling sensation in Elsa's chest, like a hook behind her ribs. It's intense, unexpected.
And she attributes it to
just his intimidating alpha presence in the moment. But what's fascinating is that she feels it, a wolfless person. Her senses are supposed to be dull. She lacks that inner spirit for deep shifter connections.
Yet she feels this undeniable pull towards him, something physical, emotional, beyond just fear or attraction.
Exactly. It suggests something deeper, unexplained is going on. A crack in the narrative's reality, hinting at more.
But Keith isn't focused on that.
Not at all. He's singularly focused. Sees her as someone who's basically kidnapped his child, dismisses her attempt to lecture him, moves past her into the apartment.
How?
Firm but careful pressure on her shoulder, the source says. States with certainty, I'm taking my daughter home. Strides through the apartment, tracking Paige by scent.
Elsa's confused now, right? This isn't the rejecting father Lola described.
Confusion swirls. He seems desperate, determined, like a father needing his child. She hurries after him, trying to explain. Lola wanted me to take care of Paige because...
He cuts her off.
Turns sharply in the bedroom doorway, blocking her view of the crib. Demands to know why. Why would his mate give their child away?
So Elsa tells him Lola's reason, the one she was given.
Because she's wolfless, Elsa says quietly. Like me. Lola said you wouldn't want a child without a wolf, that you needed an heir with a strong bloodline.
And Keith's reaction completely contradicts that.
Immediately. Powerfully, he stares at her, genuine shock replacing anger.
What?
He asks, his voice raw with disbelief.
Which completely unravels Elsa's understanding of the situation, challenges the whole premise Lola gave her.
Right as Paige cries out again, sensing the tension, Keith turns towards the sound.
And Elsa watches him approach the crib. His powerful frame is suddenly hesitant.
Yeah, uncertain movements. He looks down at his daughter, and something in his expression breaks open. Grief, love, longing, all mixed up. He reaches down, then hesitates again, his big hands hovering awkwardly over this tiny baby.
So Elsa steps in.
Gently, instinctively, puts a hand on his arm. He tenses, but steps back, lets her lift Paige. Elsa comforts her. Paige quiets instantly, snuggling against her shoulder, finding that familiar solace.
Keith watches them.
Expression unreadable, then turns away like the sight is painful, maybe a reminder of his loss or just the strangeness of it all.
Elsa restates her promise to Lola, that Lola wanted her to have Paige for a reason.
Right. and Keith's shoulders stiffen. His scent sharpens guilt, maybe anger resurfacing about Lola's decision. He asserts his right as the father. She had no right to make that decision without me, no right to give my daughter away, declares, I'm taking Paige back.
But Elsa, she knows pack law surprisingly well for someone wolfless.
She reveals this surprising depth of knowledge, counters Keith's assertion calmly, authoritatively. It surprises him.
What does she say?
Actually, according to pack law, she had every right. You are outside your territory, which makes the Luna the active authority in your absence. Her word becomes law. So if she decided and signed papers for Paige to go to me, I have every legal right to keep her.
Keith is taken aback.
Turns slowly from the crib, staring.
Surprise and something like reluctant admiration crossing his face. Clearly didn't expect this from her.
And she just explains it simply.
I may not have a wolf, but I was raised in a pack. She knows the rules.
So Keith tries a different tack. Human law.
Yeah, brings up kidnapping under human law. Asks if she'd risk that, which is ironic for an alpha, relying on human rules. Elsa calls him on it. You're an alpha, and yet you'd call humans on me. Makes it clear she'll fight for Paige any way she can.
He locks eyes with her then. Radiates that raw alpha power and states the core issue for him. This is my child. Cuts through all the legal stuff.
And that simple statement hits Elsa hard.
Unexpected force, the source says. It resonates. Seeing his undeniable desire for Paige, his paternal instinct, despite Lola's claims, doubt floods her mind.
Lola must have been wrong, but why lie? Why give her child away if not out of fear?
Elsa voices this uncertainty, but states regardless, her promise to Lola is binding. She has to look after Paige.
Keith watches them together, Elsa holding Paige, Paige calm against her. That bond is forming.
His expression softens almost imperceptibly. He sees it. Seems to come to an internal decision. Maybe recognizing the reality, the connection, offers a compromise.
The nanny proposal.
Come home with us. Work for me as Paige's nanny until we can come to a more permanent arrangement.
As reason-
Practical solution. Elsa keeps her promise by staying with Paige. He gets his daughter back under his roof, his pack's care.
And Elsa considers it. It buys her time.
Time to observe Keith with Paige. See if he truly accepts her. Understand the pack dynamics. Maybe uncover the real reason Lola did what she did. It's precarious, but feels like the best way to honor Lola and keep Paige safe.
So she agrees, cautiously, for Paige's sake.
And as they finalize this truce, Elsa extends her hand, formalizes it. I'm Elsa, by the way. Elsa Richards.
Keith hesitates.
Just for a fraction of a second. Looks at her hand, then slowly reaches back. I know, he says, low voice. Keith Caldwell.
And the moment they touch.
That strange sensation from the door returns, but amplified like crazy. The source says vividly, an electric current seems to spark between them, a jolt that races up Elsa's arm and spreads through her chest. Powerful, undeniable.
And Keith's reaction.
Immediate, sharp. Mirrors hers, but maybe with more understanding. He drops her hand as if burned, steps back abruptly, mask back on. Tone curt. We leave now. Pack what you need.
He just shuts it down and leaves the room.
Leaving Elsa frozen, hand tangling, shock coursing through her. Something significant, powerful just happened. Keith clearly recognized it and retreated from it, pushed it away.
Which just raises that crucial question again, driving the rest of the story.
This intense reaction to a simple touch between a supposedly unconnected, wolfless woman and a powerful alpha. It's totally outside the established rules we've heard so far. It strongly suggests a deeper, hidden connection.
One that shocks Elsa and makes Keith immediately put distance between them.
Left alone, Elsa wraps her arms around herself, still feeling the echo of that jolt. She recognizes the pull towards him isn't just intimidation or attraction. It's described as almost primal, something that calls to her on a level she doesn't understand. But for now, Paige is sleeping, anchoring her, as her world just tilted again.
Arriving back at the Ironwood estate, it must be a huge contrast to her tiny apartment.
Stark contrast, yeah. Physical manifestation of these different worlds she's navigating. The source describes the tense journey, Paige sleeping, Keith stiff beside her. His instructions about the nanny quarters are brief, functional, no warmth.
She must be anxious. Stepping back into pack life, giving up her independence.
All for Paige's sake. The staff are waiting. Impeccably dressed shifters, neutral expressions barely hiding intense curiosity about the wolfless woman carrying the alpha's heir. Their shifter senses betray their professionalism.
Just someone shows her around. Martha.
Yeah, Martha. Plump, gray-haired woman, seems to have quiet authority, some warmth. She shows Elsa the nursery first. Expansive soft greens and golds, clearly expensive.
And Martha reveals something interesting about it.
That Master Keith had it prepared years ago, though it's never been used until now.
Years ago, long before Paige. That feels uncomfortable for Elsa.
Deeply uncomfortable. Especially given Lola's conviction Keith wouldn't want a wolfless child. Raises questions. Was he planning for a child long before Paige? Was Lola's assessment just wrong?
Martha then shows her the nanny quarters. Connected, private but close, reinforces her temporary role.
After settling Paige, Elsa asks to see Lola's room. Wants to gather items with her scent for Paige, knowing scent is comforting for babies in new environments.
Martha agrees.
Leads her to the Luna's private suite. It's like it's frozen in time. Book open, perfume bottles, robe draped. Lola's scent lingers, jasmine, vanilla, and that undertone of something wild, her wolf's residual scent.
And Elsa notices something crucial.
This wasn't the master bedroom, not Keith's room.
Martha confirms they didn't share a room.
For the past 5 years or so, her professional reserve cracks a bit. Says sadly, things changed. They just drifted apart, became like strangers living under the same roof. Cold, distant.
Which puzzles Elsa deeply because they were mated.
And that bond is supposed to be profound, right? Spirits entwined, physical distance, emotional separation. It to cause actual pain, a constant ache. Elsa, never having had that, envied that certainty.
Martha confirms it was hard on them.
Yeah, it describes Lola looking like she was wasting away from inside, like the lack of connection was physically harming her. Notes, Keith started taking more trips, staying away for weeks. That behavior takes on new meaning now.
And Lola became reckless.
In the last few years, Martha sighs, insisting on leading patrols against advice, which wasn't like her, suggests a change, maybe seeking danger.
So this conversation just raises more critical questions.
Big ones. If the bond is unbreakable and distance painful, how did they drift so far apart for 5 years? What happened 5 years ago? Was Lola's recklessness a symptom of that pain, that distance, or something else entirely? The mystery around Lola's final actions in her marriage just deepens.
Their chat gets interrupted.
Keith appears in the doorway. Expression unreadable, but his scent is sharp with displeasure. Dismisses Martha curtly. His discomfort is clear.
He looks around the room.
His gaze sweeps over Lola's things. Pain flashes briefly across his face before the stoic Alpha mask slams back down. He doesn't comment on the room, only on Elsa's presence there.
So Elsa's left alone in Lola's room, gathering things for Paige, feeling like nothing adds up.
A mated pair shouldn't drift apart like that. Lola's recklessness contradicts the woman she knew, the woman Martha described, and her dying wish, justified by a reason Keith's reaction disproves. It feels incomplete. She whispers to the empty room, "What were you hiding, Lola? What really happened between you two?" Fueling her need to understand.
Okay, so a month goes by at the estate. A new, kind of unusual routine settles in.
They find a rhythm. Paige is hitting milestones, teething, dropping toys constantly, developing this tiny, funny personality that Elsa adores. Keith watches Paige from a distance, quietly intense, clear love in his eyes.
And the dynamic between Elsa and Keith, it keeps shifting, subtly but undeniably.
They navigate the shared spaces, dining room, library, gardens. When their eyes meet, that now familiar warmth spreads through Elsa's chest. It's physical, that connection.
It hasn't faded.
No, it's grown stronger, a constant undercurrent. Her pulse quickens. She has to consciously look away, sometimes focus on Paige to get composed.
Is the awareness mutual?
Seems so. The tension between them grows. The space between them seems charged, heavy with unspoken tension. A palpable awareness even when silent. Elsa lives with this constant awareness of him, her body responding like an instrument being tuned.
She tries to rationalize it.
Attributes it to him being an alpha, a powerful presence. But Keith mirrors it, maintains deliberate distance, moves precisely, carefully, as if he too is conscious of some invisible force drawing them together, a force he seems to be actively resisting.
Then Keith brings something from storage.
Lola's photo albums. Says they're for Paige when she's older so she'd know her mother.
A thoughtful gesture contradicts Lola's image of him.
Exactly. Surprises Elsa. As he hands her the box, their hands brush, briefly. And for a charged moment, neither moves. Keith's pupils dilate visibly. Then he steps back abruptly, clears his throat, regains control.
Later, Elsa looks through them alone, seeking answers, connection.
Photos of younger Lola show this confident, practical woman, contradicts the reckless death. She pauses at a photo from Lola's birthday party, 5 years ago, the last time they saw each other.
She's in the photo.
Laughing with Lola. And in the background, Hector, scowling, unhappy to be there. Reminder of his rigidity he didn't want to attend because he'd missed Lola's mating ceremony years before.
And the contradiction between Lola in the photos and the woman who gave Paige away, it bothers Elsa.
Gnaws at her. The Lola she knew wouldn't give Paige away without an ironclad reason. And it clearly wasn't Keith rejecting a wolfless child. His devotion to Paige is obvious now.
Plus, he defended Elsa recently, right? When someone made a nasty comment.
Yeah, the pack's third, Collins, made some dismissive remark about her unfortunate condition. Keith's response was immediate, cutting, public.
What did he say?
Mrs. Richards has shown more loyalty and commitment to this pack's future than you have, Collins. I suggest you remember that before opening your mouth again. Just shut him down completely.
Elsa was warmed by that. No one had ever stood up for her like that.
Especially not Hector. This protective gesture from Keith, acknowledging her worth despite her status. It deepens the mystery of Lola's actions even further. Makes Lola's assessment of him make even less sense.
That night, after all this reflection, Elsa dreams of Keith.
Wakes tangled in sheets, flushed, heart racing. The dream lingering vividly.
So, if we connect these dots, Elsa's body, her subconscious, it seems to be recognizing something her conscious mind hasn't figured out yet.
Totally. The physical reactions, the jolts, the awareness, now the dreams, they're all powerful clues. Hints that the connection is way more significant than just proximity or alpha presence.
Suggests some deeper, innate recognition happening despite her being wolfless.
Exactly. The narrative is clearly building towards a revelation, a truth that will explain all these anomalies, the state of the marriage, Lola's real reason for her dying wish.
Then comes a full moon night, traditionally a time of heightened senses for shifters.
Sleep evades Elsa. She feels restless, aware of this different urgent presence in the house, a subtle energy. Gets out of bed.
Checks on Paige first.
Who's sleeping peacefully, unaffected? Her eyes land on the photo album Keith gave her, sitting there.
She picks it up, just intending to connect with Lola's memory for Paige.
Right. Brush a finger on the spine, whisper about her mother. But as she lifts it, it feels uneven, heavier than it should.
She investigates.
Runs her fingers along the back cover, finds it. A leather-bound journal tucked into a hollow behind the last page. Carefully hidden.
Her pulse quickens. She recognizes it.
From Lola's pillow the day she died. She knows this holds answers.
She settles down to read it, on the window seat, in the moonlight.
Starts reading. Initial entries are routine pack stuff. But around 5 years ago, the tone shifts. Abruptly. Becomes intensely personal, raw. She reads the entry from May 12th, Lola's birthday party, the last time Elsa saw her.
Lola describes Keith arriving.
Surprising her. Everything's okay for a few minutes, a rare peace in their strained marriage. And then he freezes, body rigid, eyes locked on someone across the room.
And Lola feels it through their bond.
Instantly, a violent seismic shift, as if the earth had tilted on its axis. An internal cataclysm. She knew immediately, with devastating certainty, what was happening. Keith, her mated bond, whom she calls revealingly a bond of convenience, had just found his fated mate.
Whoa, fated mate, that's like mythical, right?
It's less mythical, yeah. Whispered about in legends. A connection so rare, so powerful, it transcends ordinary bonds. A soul match made by fate.
And Lola felt
Everything. Through their bond. The shock. Keith's recognition, the desperate primal pull toward her. And the object of this connection that Lola notes with heartbreaking clarity had no idea. Didn't even notice him.
Elsa gasps, reading this, hand to her mouth.
The journal trembles. To feel your mate's soul reach for another. The source calls it a torment Elsa can barely imagine. A level of agony she hadn't comprehended.
Okay, so here it is. This explains everything.
Yeah.
The pull between Elsa and Keith, the jolts, his struggle to keep distance, the pain he carries, the 5 years of coldness with Lola.
It all traces back to that single fateful moment 5 years ago.
The next day's entry, May 13th, confirms the turmoil.
Keith barely slept, pacing, thoughts chaotic, his wolf howling inside, distressed by the conflict. Bond versus fate.
Lola confronts him.
Tries to understand, he breaks. Can't explain it. Like being struck by lightning, he says. Undeniable, overwhelming recognition.
Lola offers to release him from their bond.
Painful, but would free them both. He refuses. Horrified. Swears it's just instinct, animal, nothing more. Something he can control, bury. Vows to remain loyal to her.
But Lola knows the truth.
Writes that the truth of that meeting now sits between them. A constant, unavoidable, third presence, poisoning whatever connection they had left.
Months later, August 30th, nothing's better.
Lola writes Keith tries, but she feels him pulling away. Emotionally, spiritually, becoming a stranger, haunted by someone else.
The worst moments are when
her name comes up, even casually. He asks these veiled questions, desperate for any scrap of info about the woman occupying his thoughts more than his own mate, though he's never properly met her.
Elsa feels a strange tightness in her chest reading this, realizing the depth of his conflict.
The pain of knowing his soul belonged elsewhere, even by fate's cruel trick.
By December 18th, the distance is physical too, separate rooms.
Lola writes, "It's better this way." Can't bear feeling him dream of the other woman through their bond. He refused again to end the bond, said it could kill Lola due to its depth, wouldn't risk her life or abandon his alpha duties.
He told her he loved her, but
it had changed, weathered into something that resembles duty more than passion. A heartbreaking realization. Lola concludes with a devastating line that must terrify Elsa now. She haunts us both now, the woman who holds my mate's soul in her unwitting grasp.
this isn't just a love triangle, it's profound. Fate versus duty, the fated bond versus the mated bond.
And Keith and Lola are both victims, tracked by a destiny that arrived too late for the vows they'd made. Lola's journal is just years of silent suffering, living with her mate's soul constantly reaching for another, a torment that hollowed out her life.
The journal continues. Lola's search for some kind of peace.
February 6th, she finds out she's pregnant. Clings to the hope the child could be their salvation, a child to bind us, a new focus to maybe heal the rift. Keith shows raw hope too, sees it as a path forward.
But by December 10th, Paige is 3 months old, and Lola faces another blow.
She knows. Mother's intuition. Paige has no wolf spirit. Hides it from Keith at first, watches him with Paige, sees his genuine love, gentleness, but knows the pack will whisper, a wolfless heir. It's a problem. Validates the fears she shared with Elsa.
Then comes a pivotal moment for Lola, a dream.
Offers a glimpse of a different future. Peace. She dreams of them together, Keith, Paige, and her, the fated mate. In the dream, they're a family, whole, happy, Paige laughing, reaching for both. And Lola writes, for the first time in years, she felt peace.
This dream shifts her perspective profoundly.
Her final entry, March 4th, 2 days before her death, dreams of them again. The three of them together, a true family, bonded by love and fate. Paige calls her Mama, and Lola writes with acceptance, and it felt right.
This leads directly to her final decision, the true motive.
Updates her will. Elsa gets temporary guardianship. Knows Keith will fight it, pride, duty, control.
But her true hope, revealed in these last entries, wasn't about Keith rejecting Paige for being wolfless.
That was the surface reason she gave Elsa. Maybe the only way she thought Elsa would accept. Her true hope was deeper, more complex. Born of love for both Keith and Paige, even with a broken heart.
What was the hope?
She writes, Elsa is stronger than anyone knows. She'll stand her ground when Keith comes for Paige. He'll have to face Elsa, and maybe then finally she'll feel the bond too. She believes with the time, proximity, living together. The fated bond Keith felt years ago, maybe dulled for Elsa by wolflessness, would finally ignite for Elsa too.
Lola's dying act was a gamble.
A final, desperate gamble, born of years of pain, but also surprising acceptance, hoping to bring Elsa and Keith together through Paige, so they'd find the fated connection.
And if they did,
Paige would have her father, who Lola knew loved her, and a mother who understood her, being wolfless. Keith would have his fated mate, the one his soul craved. And Elsa, dear sweet Elsa, who felt so incomplete, she'll finally have the love and respect she deserves.
So Lola's actions weren't about rejection. They were about love, sacrifice, hope, trying to bring peace and happiness to everyone she loved, even realizing her own painful reality after death. It's, wow, tragic, profound, redefines everything Elsa thought.
The journal slips from Elsa's numb fingers, clatters on the floor. Her mind reels. The truth hits her, hard.
She's Keith's fated mate. She is the woman, the reason his marriage fell apart, the one he saw 5 years ago, the one whose soul his was reaching for.
She searches her memory of that party, arriving late after fighting with Hector, Lola hugging her, but no memory of Keith, none, probably too caught up in her own misery.
But the past months, the pull, the jolts, the dreams, the constant awareness, it all rushes back, viewed through Lola's words.
Is this what a fated bond feels like? She whispers, hands to her burning cheeks, overwhelmed.
And the implication, if Lola was right, Keith has known, since she opened her apartment door, since their hands touched, that she was his fated mate.
And he's been fighting it again, pushing her away, just like he fought it for 5 agonizing years with Lola.
As this magnitude washes over her, reshaping everything, the nursery door opens.
Keith, standing there, drawn by her distress, maybe, frozen in the doorway, gaze fixed on her, and the journal on the floor.
Elsa, holding the journal, states the truth. Voice fragile, barely a whisper, but devastatingly clear.
It's me, she says. The words hang there. I'm your fated mate.
Keith's expression twists. Raw emotion, shock, longing, grief, then his jaw tightens, holding himself together. You were never supposed to know, he murmurs. Rough voice, confirming it.
Hurt fled Elsa's voice. Years of feeling unseen, unwanted. You knew 5 years ago? At Lola's party, and you never told me, never came looking.
Keith's hands clenched, the internal conflict visible, gives his reason for silence then. I was mated to Lola. I made vows. She was my Luna, the core of his struggle.
Elsa acknowledges the weight of that, the duty, the sacrifice. And you kept them, she says gently, recognizing what he endured, even when it tore you apart. Something flickers in his eyes, vulnerability, maybe gratitude for her understanding, a glimpse of the torment, before he closes off again.
He retreats, physically, emotionally, shuts it down. It doesn't matter now. What's done is done. Wants to bury it again.
Elsa refuses, voice rising, won't let him dismiss it, retreat into denial. Doesn't matter. Keith, this explains everything. The pull between us, how Paige lights up around both of us, even why Lola.
Keith interrupts sharply. Protective instinct, guilt, rage flashes. Don't use her name to justify this. I wasn't. Can't say he wasn't fighting for Lola. His alpha power crackles. Raw emotion. You think this is some beautiful fate that Lola died so we could be together? She's dead, Elsa, because of me, because of this curse. Blames himself, blames the bond.
Paige whimpers in her crib, affected by the storm in the room.
Elsa rushes to soothe her, murmurs comforts. Her presence calms the air. Keith's rage drains away, replaced by resignation, defeat.
He speaks again, flat, decisive, pushing away the very thing he's longed for. You and Paige should leave in the morning. Go back to your apartment.
Elsa snaps, won't accept this rejection, this denial, this breaking up of their little family unit. You're sending us away because I'm your mate. After everything, how is tearing Paige from her father better? Denying what we are, what Lola wanted.
Keith explodes again, reveals the depth of his self-blame, his belief he's destructive.
Because I destroy everything I touch. I failed Lola. I couldn't protect her from my own fate. I can't do this again. I won't fail you or her.
Elsa steps towards him, tears streaming, seeing his pain, his fear. You won't, she says softly but fiercely, conviction in her voice. Paige needs you. She needs her father.
Keith's voice cracks, raw vulnerability, revealing his own loneliness, his need. And I don't.
Elsa declares her feelings, puts it all out there, regardless of the pain, the history. I love you, she says. Simple, true, cutting through his denial. Before I understood why being near you felt like home, why it felt like coming home. Keith closes his eyes, pain and longing warring on his face. Elsa presses on, addresses his fear directly, draws on her own painful past to show him he's not alone and feeling broken, unworthy. I won't let you push us away because you're afraid. Cuts him off when he tries to deny it.
She shares her experience with Hector.
I was married to a man who made me feel broken, like I didn't deserve love, like I was defective. I believe him because I was scared of being alone, scared he was right. She steps closer, closing the distance he tries to keep. But I'm not scared anymore, not with him and not with you. I know my worth now, and I know yours.
Keith shakes his head, claims it's different, his failure is real, but Paige's cry interrupts again, sharp, insistent, brings them back to the present, back to her.
Keith scoops her up. Gentle movements despite his turmoil, and then perfect, innocent timing. Paige says it, her first clear word, directed at him, Bada.
Keith flinches, struck by the word, the reality of his daughter.
He asks a painful, hoarse question, looking at Paige, then Elsa, voice barely a whisper.
Do you think she'd miss me if I were to give her up, to give you?
The thought is agony. His love for Paige is clear.
Elsa is fierce, incredulous. Of course she'd miss you. What are you talking about, Keith? Give her up. You're her father. Steps towards him again, compelled, but he retreats. Barrier still up. Fear of failing them.
The argument circles back. Impossibility. Elsa insists he can't send Paige away. Keith says she doesn't understand the burden, the history, his failure. But Elsa says she does understand. She read the journal, knows how he tried to honor his vows for 5 excruciating years, despite the fated bond pulling him to her, knows why he thinks he doesn't deserve happiness, doesn't deserve them.
She cuts through his self-blame, connects it back to Lola's true intent, shifts focus from his failings to Paige's needs.
It's not about what you deserve, Elsa says, voice rising with emotion, conviction. It's about what your daughter needs. And she needs her father and a mother, the one Lola chose for her when she couldn't be here herself.
Keith argues Lola was dying, not thinking clearly. Decision born of pain.
Elsa counters. Lola was thinking with a mother's clarity. Thinking of Paige, her daughter. Not herself, not bonds, not expectations. Paige's future, happiness, need for family.
Paige's dada again. Looking between them, Keith's hand trembles on her back. Her voice is in anger.
I failed Lola,
He whispers again, crushed by the weight.
I'll fail you too. This bond, it destroys.
Elsa steps closer still, reaches out, offers solace, belief.
Yeah.
You didn't fail her, Elsa says. Tears in her eyes, voice steady. You love her the best you could with a heart that was never fully yours to give. Acknowledges maybe he inadvertently made Lola feel less than, but gently adds, but not by choice. Reminds him of Lola's final entries. Lola gave Paige to Elsa because she trusted Elsa, because she believed they'd find each other, all three of them.
Keith struggles to believe it, to accept peace after so much pain. I want to believe that, he whispers hoarse, but how could seeing me with someone else possibly bring her peace?
Elsa's answer is simple, profound, speaks to Lola's sacrifice. Because she loved you, Elsa says, enough to want you to be happy, even if it meant letting go. Places her hand on his arm, affirms their reality, not telling him to forget Lola, but to honor her by raising Paige, giving her the family Lola envisioned.
And then, the turning point, sealed by Paige.
Caught between them, she senses the shift, the possibility, stretches her tiny arms toward both, reaching for their joined presence, and clearly says, Mama.
Tears spring to Elsa's eyes. Keith's expression softens, internal struggle eases. Looking at Paige, then Elsa. Something protective, fierce, and full of awe sparking in his eyes.
He murmurs, words heavy with history, future. If we do this, if we accept this, there's no going back. The bond, it'll be permanent, claimed. Lifts a hand, no longer hesitant, to Elsa's cheek, trailing gently to her neck, a claiming touch.
Good, Elsa says, firm voice, certainty she's never known, because I'm not leaving, not again.
He leans in, foreheads touch, breaths mingling. I fought this for 5 years, he whispers. Confession heavy with sacrifice.
You don't have to fight anymore, she whispers back, cupping his jaw, offering peace.
When their lips meet, the source says it feels like something finally falling into place. Not a beginning, but completion. Kiss deepens, connection ignites, and the fated bond, no longer fought, denied, flares between them like fire, permanent, undeniable, forging them together.
Paige, sensing the love, the shift, giggles, pats both their faces. Delight. Their family forged through heartbreak, fate, deliberate choices complete.
The epilogue gives us a glimpse, 6 months later. Resolution.
The grand ballroom at Ironwood. Formal attire, pack members, crystal chandeliers. A big event.
Keith stands on the dais, commanding presence, no longer conflicted. The Alpha, strong, certain, announces the purpose to formally recognize their Luna.
Elsa steps forward, Paige in her arms, tiny silver dress matching her mother's gown. A murmur of approval ripples through the crowd, acknowledging their new Luna, her daughter.
Keith introduces her. Voice filled with pride, love, addresses the pack, delegates, names her not just mate, but specifically my fated mate, acknowledging the unusual fated bond. Calls her mother to my daughter, cementing Paige's place, and presents her as the strength of our pack, recognizing her resilience, her vital role.
The traditional claiming ceremony happens, ancient words, modern promises, binding them together publicly.
As Keith places the delicate silver Luna circlet on her head, Elsa feels this surge of emotion, so powerful it steals her breath, the contrast with her past, immense, unbelievable.
From wolfless outcast, seen as barren, worthless by some, to Luna of the most powerful pack, beloved mate, proud mother, the journey still feels dreamlike, the reality of belonging.
At the reception, amidst the celebration, Elsa spots a familiar, unwelcome figure, Hector. Edge of the gathering, stiffly among delegates, gaze fixed on her, undisguised shock, can't comprehend the transformation.
Keith senses him, protective arm around Elsa's waist, quietly offers to have him removed, spare her discomfort.
But Elsa declines. No need, she replies, leaning into Keith's embrace. Secure. Let him see what he threw away. Let him see what defective looks like now.
Hector, forced by protocol, approaches. Stiff bow. Lola Caldwell, congratulations stick in his throat. Struggles visibly to reconcile this confident, radiant woman with the quiet wife he discarded.
And then Paige solidifies the reality. Squirms in Keith's arms, reaching for Elsa, certainty, demanding, Mama! Elsa takes her daughter, holds her close, feels Hector's stunned stare, witnessing the impossible Elsa as mother, Luna, complete, claimed. All he manages is a choked, quite a turn of events.
Elsa exchanges a final look with Keith, speaks volumes, shared history, overcoming pain, triumph, belonging. A future neither could have imagined before fate, courage, and a dying wish brought them here.
So the ultimate insight from this story really challenges some of those initial assumptions, even within its own world. It shows blood isn't the only bond that matters.
That being wolfless doesn't mean incomplete or defective.
Right. And that duty, while powerful, can sometimes clash tragically with his undeniable fated destiny.
It really highlights how true strength can come from unexpected places, often from those who are underestimated.
And it demonstrates how choice can intertwine with fate to create something unique, powerful, identity, belonging. They aren't just about having a wolf spirit. They're about love, resilience, integrity, finding where you're truly seen, valued, chosen, redefines what family and connection can really be.
Yeah, even in a world bound by ancient laws and primal spirits, this narrative stack, it really gave us so much to explore. The intricate, often contradictory rules of their society.
The heartbreaking complexities of the different bonds, mated versus fated.
And the incredible strength of Elsa, a character constantly told she wasn't enough, only to find her true place, her completeness through this completely unexpected, fated path.
It really brings into focus how sometimes the things we see as flaws, as absences, sources of pain, can surprisingly lead us down these unexpected paths to the very connections and belonging we need most.
So, based on the journey this story took us on, here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder.
Consider how often, maybe in our own lives, the things we feel make us incomplete or lead to rejection might actually be the unique qualities that ultimately guide us to where we're truly meant to be.
Connecting us to the people and places where we finally belong, often in ways we never could have predicted. What perceived weaknesses in your own source material, your own life story, might actually be hidden strengths just waiting to reveal your true path.
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.